watching. My name's Jerry Conniff and I'm Head of Insurance at WLR, and this is Catherine Alesso from Cowbell. And we're going to have a bit of a chat today about cyber security and where cyber insurance places itself within that market. So today really is a bit more about clarity and not fear. Cyber risk is a standard business risk such as cash flow and contracts. Most cyber claims come from small and mid-sized businesses, often triggered by simple events such as, supplier fraud or, a compromised email. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're hoping to sort of go through the real risks, look at what cyber insurance actually does, and then what sensible steps businesses can take.
Yep, perfect.
Lovely. So, what types of cyber incidents are you seeing most often in UK businesses right now?
So in the UK, funds transfer, cybercrime, so funds transfer frauds, social engineering attacks leading to fraudulent activity is, without a shadow of a doubt, the most frequent claim we see. Ransomware is the most severe.
Yeah.
I mean, again, hands down, no question, ransomware is the most severe claim that we see in the UK. But frequency-wise, cybercrime.
So are UK SMEs being targeted deliberately or just caught when they're off guard?
I mean, it's a bit of both. Obviously the large organisations make the news, right, because people know their household names. But typically, criminals are aware that small, medium-sized companies don't have such robust IT, which means there are more vulnerabilities, and so there's more reason that they can exploit them. But whether you're vulnerable or not isn't based on your turnover. An organisation is vulnerable if they're not doing any cyber awareness training. If they've never even thought, if they're not prepared, if they've not thought about whether they're going to pay a ransom. So there's a lot more involved in how vulnerable you are, not just how big your company is.
Are there any particular sectors that are being targeted?
I mean, really, if you use technology, you've got cyber risk, but the ones that are kind of high hazard, we would see professional services.
Yeah, anything with the word financial in it.
Well, I mean, law firms are, ransomwares for law firms are about 5 times higher than they are for other industries, purely because of the sort of data that they hold. But yeah, I mean, all professional services, manufacturing, construction, healthcare, education. But as I say, if you use a computer, if you use technology, you've got cyber risk.
Right, okay. And what early warning signs do businesses tend to risk?
Well, I think it's things like, it's not always easy to spot, especially if you haven't got somebody monitoring your systems 24/7. But, things like, are your computers acting erratically? Are they slow? Are files missing? Are there being a lot of failed login attempts outside of office hours? In Scotland, if you're based in London, those sorts of things can indicate that something's not quite right.
So really, cyber affects everybody. It isn't just, your big corporates like we heard last year. It can affect absolutely anyone. And
yes.
Okay. So in simple terms then, what would a cyber insurance policy cover?
Okay, well, so then probably cyber insurance is a support-led product.
Yeah.
So one of the key parts is the incident response costs.
Right.
So that is there to pick up and to respond to an actual or a suspected incident. Mm-hmm. So like your IT forensics, your legal counsel, your reputational harm, your crisis management people, your ID monitoring. Yeah. Notification costs, all of that's the key bit. And then you've got your first party costs, which are those that directly impact the insured, such as your loss of profits all the while you can't operate because your computers have been denied or failed. Yeah. You've got obviously your extortion costs, and then like your third party liability. So that is where if I'm the insured, yeah. You're third party, you try and sue me because I've either accidentally transferred a virus to your computer or I've just not, I've lost your personal data or your sensitive data. Right. So then the insurance would cover the defence costs and compensation for those sorts of things. Right,
that makes that a lot clearer. So how important then is the response element, like the legal, the forensic, the IT support?
Key. Honestly, the mishandling of these events is catastrophic for organisations. Knowing that you've got that fourth of that emergency service there, you don't know what's laying dormant. You might think you've got rid of something. You don't know how it got there necessarily. You don't know if it's laying dormant. Ransomware how often have you had to negotiate with a ransomware gang?
Yeah.
Have you even got access to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency? It's those sort of legal counsel.
Yeah.
Do you know what to say to the ICO? What you put in that ICO report, because obviously with GDPR, you've got, 72 hours.
Yeah.
If you've never been through one of these incidents before, that is going to fly by. And if you don't know, like, the buzzwords that the ICO wants to hear,
land yourself in more.
Well, it can determine what sort of fine you get.
Yeah.
So you're a business owner. You want to make sure your business continues. You don't need to be stressing yourself out. And it's this that is the stressful part.
Yeah.
Give it to the people that are experts, that know what they're doing.
So typically, what would happen then in the first sort of like 24 to 48 hours after an incident?
I mean, it would very much depend on what the incident is.
Yeah.
If it's a ransomware incident, then it is absolutely critical to get on top of that as soon as possible. So what would happen is the policyholder would contact the insurer's helpline. So it's 24/7, obviously 365. Criminals, funnily enough, don't work 9 to 5. So, you have the help there 24/7, 365 days. Contact the insurers, and then we would have a scoping call, find out what's going on, and then determine from that, do we need to engage legal counsel? What do we need? IT forensics? What's happened? What do we need to do? All the while, obviously, keeping the policyholder in line. Also, giving them help. What should you be saying to your customers or suppliers? What should you be saying to your employees? Making sure that in terms of like crisis management and PR, that you've kind of got that, you're doing what you ought to be doing.
Right, and to be fair, I think that's where a lot of confusion lies in the marketplace. A lot of people think that, it's going to stop the event from happening. It's not, considering actually we need the people to come in to manage the event if it were to occur. But leading on from that, many clients do believe that they're too small for them to be targeted. Why is that risky thinking?
Because, as I say, it doesn't matter about how large you are. Typically small businesses don't have the resource, the expertise, or the budget to be able to really kind of monitor what's going on. And it's incredibly difficult to keep on top of your IT. Take Microsoft. There are so many things you need to have in place to be kind of ticking every best practice box. It can be like a full-time job. And if you don't have a CISO or, a team that's looking after your security, with the insurance, there's all those proactive risk management resources you get. You get constant monitoring, you get risk assessing, you get access to cybersecurity experts if you've got questions. So all of that you get as well as the kind of the insurance and the support. Yeah,
I think a lot of clients I've spoken to previously have said, well, we've got good IT infrastructure, or we outsource our IT to someone else.
We outsource our IT. If I've heard that once, what that means is that you are relying on your IT, and that is in control of somebody completely out of your control. Yeah. If they have an attack, or if they make a mistake, that's going to that's going to mean you can't get the technology you rely on. Mm-hmm. Where's that going to leave you? Yeah. So absolutely, if you rely on an outsourced service provider for at least a function of your IT, you need to consider this.
Okay, lovely. So can you share an example of a cyber claim and how, a real life example, and how the insurance supported that business? Yeah,
I mean, as I sort of say, things like business email compromise is something that we regularly see. And it typically for professional services, what will happen is, the criminal will gain access to your business email account, typically through phishing, so social engineering, either tricking you into stealing your credentials because you've given them away, or it could be an unrelated breach that's already happened. Yeah. So stolen credentials, get into your system, sit in your email account, just watching what's going on, waiting for the most lucrative time to strike. And then typically with business email compromise, we see that, I would instruct I'd set up forwarding rules on your email so that you don't, as the user, you don't know what's going on. And I'm sending emails to people in the accounts department to sort of say, look, it's really urgent. You must make this transfer now. I know it's Friday afternoon. You can't get hold of me, but I can trust you. Really kind of playing on their emotions. And then you don't want to be the one that's let the CEO down. And so people then, and then money's transferred. it's then too late. And then when you get that call a couple of weeks later from the people that are expecting the money and they say, we didn't receive it, it's too late. It's too late to recover. So what the insurers do is that we would help basically with the recovery of that, and we would help from the IT forensics point of view to, as I say, to see how this happened, what measures need to be put in place to make sure it kind of doesn't happen again. But ultimately, it would be the recovery of the money that you've lost.
Right. Okay. So without having a policy in place, you're kind of left stranded, aren't you, really?
Well, you've lost that money, and you've also possibly ruined a relationship with whoever it is that's expecting the money, because somebody's lost out, right? Because you've been tricked.
I mean, we've seen some quite high profile cyber incidents last year with, and it often wasn't an internal problem, it was an external problem that created it. So I think there was a lot of free advertising last year with major companies that were hit really, really hard.
I think what those events shows is that you cannot rely on cybersecurity. You cannot put all your money into security defence because no insure out, no payout. As I say, look at the likes of Co-op. They were like, right, we're going to defend. We're going to just put loads of money into cybersecurity. And then when it hit them, they had nothing, they had no insurance, no financial help to help them out. Yeah. So you have to think about, to be cyber resilient, you need to think about both aspects, security and the insurance.
Right, perfect. So what should businesses then look for when reviewing or buying cyber insurance?
Key, the breach response costs. Absolutely key that you've got cyber crime. As I say, it's the most frequent claim, so having a policy without it is fairly useless. But make sure there are as little, ideally no, onerous conditions or warranties to do with minimum security requirements. So many policies have, you must have MFA, you must back up X amount of days, you must test that, you must do X, Y, Z. There are very strong policies with comprehensive cover that do not have those kind of like small prints. Make sure, obviously you've got cover for extortion. Typically going through a broker that sort of knows a good policy from a not so good policy is absolutely going to be key, because unfortunately we don't all use the same terminology, so it can get tricky. Not all policies cover social engineering. So getting tricked into revealing sensitive information or giving away money, that needs to be covered. Business interruption, you need to have your service provider covered, not just your own computer systems. Okay. There is a lot to think about.
So really what you're saying is that I've spoken to a lot of clients who said, we already have that in place and it's just an add-on onto their combined policy. Or
you will not get the incident response, the modern day crime cover, and all of those proactive resources if you have an add-on. There's a reason it will be the price it is, because all the relevant bits that we're seeing in the landscape, the cyber landscape at the moment, won't be covered in those little add-ons.
Right, okay. Typically, what would an insurer want to know then from a business in order for them to purchase this, cyber?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what we would need, it's very basic information: name, address, turnover, business description, and web domain. Right, and the reason we don't need a domain, but the reason we ask for that is so that we can do all the scans that we do to see what vulnerabilities there are, or whether you've got data floating around the dark web. So that sort of information. And then possibly we would make assumptions on your controls. The more information you can give us, the more price can max exposure. But you can get quotes. We can give you quotes and help you in that process.
Wonderful. So anybody who's watching this today, what's the one thing that they can do within their business this month to reduce risk?
Be prepared. Because if you're still thinking it's not going to happen to me, then unfortunately, when it does, it's a bit too late to think about the event when you're in the event, because you're going to be so concerned about how you don't, see your business unfortunately fall away. You need to be prepared, have the insurance in place, have the instant response. Think about what you do in these sorts of events. And the other one, I know you only asked for one, training. Cyber awareness training for your employees. Between 70 and 90% of compromises stem from human error. Wow. So at least give yourselves half a chance and do, get that as part of it. It's as important as like health and safety training nowadays.
And it's not just an onboarding as soon as someone joins, it's literally regular training.
Regular training.
They're getting the attacks now, they're so pinpointing and things that we don't know what we don't know.
That's
so
it.
Just, yeah.
But that's, that's given to you with the insurance. You get the free training. You get the phishing simulations where you send out those fake emails to your own employees, not to name and shame, but just to see those people need more training.
Yeah.
All of that is going to help reduce the likelihood of an incident happening.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So really what we've got from this cyber insurance is about response, recovery, and keeping your business trading. That's ultimately what it's there for. If you've got any questions or if you want to talk about this further, reach out. I'm happy to have a chat, and then we can go through what potential risks you think you have and how we can sort those out for you. Thank you.
Thanks.